Welcome into another edition of the Throwing Chairs podcast, guys. We've got a lot to talk about today. A lot of bad, but a lot of good things to look forward to, especially this weekend. A big game on the horizon for Indiana basketball. But without further ado, I'm your host, Hayden Smith, joined alongside Audrey Marr and Thomas Montalbano for the Hoosier Network. Guys, it's great to be back here. It's finals week up here in Bloomington, so I feel like everybody's just kind of ready to get back home for a couple of days, especially as Christmas time is coming around. But before we get into anything, we've got to begin this podcast like we do every podcast for the Throwing Chairs. And we're going to talk about our icebreaker today. I like this one, and I'm really curious about how you guys are going to respond to this. Audrey's over here looking at my script.
I'm curious.
So, guys, it's a zombie apocalypse right now.
Gosh.
Everybody in Bloomington has turned into a zombie. Where do you hide in Bloomington?
Right here.
I like it.
Here?
Right here. No one can get in here.
Wow.
You can't get in here without access.
But there's
But hold
not a lot of resources in here.
everybody right now has just turned into a zombie, meaning me and Thomas are now zombies.
Oh.
So you have to
So I'm just the only one that's not a zombie?
Yes.
Let me think about that
I
one.
gotta think for a second, too.
Me and Audrey just turned into zombies. You have to get away from here. Where are you going?
All right, first of all, I'm leaving this room immediately and hopping in my car.
Oh, yeah, wait.
You have to stay in the city limits.
Okay, sure.
I'm
that's
going
fair.
in my trunk.
I'm going.
I'll go in my
You
trunk.
don't think zombies can get through a trunk?
I can lock my car.
Eventually.
I can
For me,
lock
that's
my
just
car.
like a little-
How do they know that I'm in my car?
I don't. They smell. They smell the brains.
Brains.
I don't know how zombies work. Zombies are real.
Maybe I'll take one out of that crazy man from last year's page and go in the
my
sewer.
goodness. He's going in the sewers, ladies and gentlemen.
I think that's probably where the zombies hide.
Yeah.
but
That might be their lair, actually.
that might be their lair.
That's
That is
where the
amazing.
zombie apocalypse
That
started,
is
actually.
amazing.
What's your answer?
Yeah, how about you?
I'm gonna say I'm going to the SRSC. I could turn that
reps
place into a fortress. You know how many hidden rooms are in the SRSC and how big it is? Either that or I'm just going to go all the way to the top of Section K because a zombie's not going to want to walk up all those flights of stairs.
That's a great
They're going to get
That's a
tired
good
by the
idea.
time they get up there.
That's a good idea.
I'll say one thing. I'm staying away from Kirkwood because everybody on
Yeah.
Kirkwood just turned into a zombie. That place is going to be a nest for zombies.
Yeah.
Audrey, you never gave us your pick. Where are you going?
My trunk.
Are you going in your trunk?
I think. Okay.
She's
Well,
locking in the trunk.
No, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I'll lock in the mall.
It's just like for how long are
Okay.
you in
I'll
the
go to the
trunk?
mall.
Because you can't
There's
be
a
in the
lot of
trunk
places
forever.
to hide in the mall.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fair. My original answer was going to be like Memorial Stadium or Assembly Hall, but I don't really know where the best place to hide in Assembly Hall would be. The press room. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not very many good places to go.
Yeah.
I'll just go hang out with Woodson's. He's a zombie, so I can't really
I
hang
like
out
your
with
Section
him.
K answer because one, like
Yeah,
people
they're not
aren't
gonna
going to
get up
expect
there.
it. It's right out in the open.
Yeah.
And two, like even if they did, like you said, they're not about
Yeah.
to make that walk.
They're never going to get up there in time. They're going to get tired before they even make it up halfway. I mean, I know I do every single time. I'm out of breath by
Oh,
the
my
time I
goodness.
get about
Yeah.
That's the
30
workout for
rows
the
up.
day.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Well, so we've gotten away from our zombie talk, and Indiana guys might as well have been zombies this past weekend whenever they took on the Auburn Tigers in Atlanta, Georgia. Guys, it's no secret that this was a rough game for Indiana, losing 104-76, the second most points given up in the Mike Woodson era. Guys, just big takeaways first off from this loss to Auburn. I mean, it was not pretty to put the least.
Can I go?
Yeah. My first takeaway was just the amount of points they gave up. 104. A lot of people think this is the worst loss under Woodson's
It very
tenure.
well might be.
That 104 points given up was actually the second most under Woodson, the first being a double overtime loss, and they only scored
Syracuse.
two much more.
Yep.
Or, sorry, 8 more.
112
to 110.
That's what I thought, yeah.
But yeah, 104 in regulation. I mean, that can't ever happen. And, especially on a national stage like it was at State Farm Arena, that definitely was the number one thing that stood out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just messy. I like, as Mike Woodson said, they took him away from everything that they wanted to do. And I think they had a game plan, but it was completely messed up with what Auburn was doing. And it was like 12 minutes into the left in the first half that they pretty much lost everything that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I think once that point of the game hit, they had no way to really come together and come back from what they wanted to do. And that's also a big part of leadership. They didn't have Xavier Johnson on the court to come in and bring them and be like, okay, guys, let's do this. It's fine. They didn't have that leader on the court, which was a very big loss. And that my takeaway.
I just want to hop in right there. Yeah, off that note, Woodson said it, like you said. His exact quote, not having X, I'm not using that as an excuse. I mean, he's a senior point guard that can score the ball and make plays for us, especially when we were getting pressured like we were.
Yep.
That hurt, but again, we showed wonderful signs tonight against a good team early on, and we just need to sustain that for a 40-minute ball game. And you said it, those first 8 minutes, many people think it was the best start to their season. We thought it was about to be a great,
incredible,
great win.
Like best,
that
best play on the court.
12-minute mark, Ware and Mackenzie McBacco, I believe, both subbed out, and that's where they lost control.
They had all of their starters out except for Trey Galloway.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a turning point.
The rotations have just really baffled me, especially to start off this season. I like that you're trying to get as many players involved as possible, and especially whenever things aren't going right. I mean, obviously, you've got to change some things up whenever Auburn went on an incredible run, a 42-12 run put on by the Auburn Tigers after Indiana went up 22-10 in the first half. But there's a certain point where you've got to at least leave somebody on the court. I mean, yeah, you have Trey Galloway on there. I mean, and Audrey, you talk about Xavier Johnson being the leader for this team, but I mean, at the same time, Trey Galloway's a senior. He's a captain. He's got to be able to put his big boy pants on and will his team together. It can't just be one person leading this team. There's got to be multiple leaders out there, and you've got guys that have been in these situations before. Again, it's a young team. Malik Renew, it's only his second year. Kel'el Ware, second year. Mackenzie Mbako, first year. Gabe Cupps, freshman. But, I mean, Trey Galloway, those guys, it's got to be guys like Trey Galloway and Anthony Walker, especially guys that have seen a considerable amount of action and have seen games like this where they're down big and they're giving up big runs where they can put the team together and be a leader and get the team ready to go and go out there and punch right back. And I just don't think Indiana's really had that. But again, they have those kind of pieces. Another thing that really concerned me was the bench production. I mean, I was baffled. I mean, again, CJ Gunn, 6 points. Anthony Walker, 9 points. A lot of that came in garbage time in the second half. The bench has just really, I don't want to say it's shocked me. Granted, I thought this Indiana team would have a relatively good bench and might have been a deep team, but have I been horribly wrong so far to start off the year? Again, I think it goes back to the rotations, and it's just really not working. And speaking of the bench, guys, what needs to change with this not maybe just the rotation, but what needs to change with the offense, what needs to change with the defense, what just needs to change overall? Granted, I don't want to take away Indiana's start to the season. They're still a very respectable 7-2 on the year, but those two losses against really high caliber teams. Guys, what needs to change moving forward, especially for this weekend?
I mean, it's also, yes, it's a horrible loss, but it's just one game.
Exactly.
So you have to look back at the Michigan game, an away conference game, and it was their bench that really brought them the win, as Mike Woodson said as well. I mean, I think it really just goes back to Auburn just took them away from everything that they wanted to do. But I think it also does go back to the rotations. I think that they're really just using the same kind of rotations every game, and every team is starting to see that. And I think it's something they definitely need to look at. But again, I just think in my mind it's one game.
Give it time.
Give it time. Exactly. Yeah.
I liked your point about the rotations. They're experimenting, and clearly this experiment with the rotations that they're using isn't working out the way they thought it would.
Soon enough, they will shorten the rotation. Soon enough.
Yeah, you got to imagine that's going to be the case. And like Audrey just said, it is one game. They're going to have a week to prepare for this Kansas game, and who knows how it's going to go, but they cannot suffer another 30-point loss at home.
Oh, yeah, of course. And I think, again, we are very unsure, again, on Xavier Johnson's availability for this weekend's game against Kansas. He's been in the boot for the last couple games, so, again, it's very much up in the air. Nobody outside of the Indiana program knows really what is going to happen with Xavier Johnson moving forward. But whenever he does come back, it's going to be huge for this team because, like you said, Thomas, like you said, Audrey, he is a very big vocal part of this Indiana team. He's a great player, obviously. He's a great defender, and he's probably one of the best defenders that Indiana has outside of Kel'el Ware. Perimeter defenders, I'll say that. He's easily one of the best perimeter defenders, I believe, on this team. But having him back in a leadership role will be tremendous for Indiana, and it also allows a guy like Gabe Cupps to lead the second unit. I love Gabe Cupps, and I feel like basically every Indiana fan has learned to love Gabe Cupps and will love Gabe Cupps for years to come. But I think he's just a better player off the bench, and he just needs that time to see the game unfold, and then he can go in there and he can deliver his spark to lead the second unit. And Thomas, you mentioned this not too long ago about Indiana losing another big one on a big stage in State Farm Arena. And outside of Bloomington, I have a stat here once again for you guys. Outside of Bloomington, Indiana really has never been able to perform, especially in the last 5 seasons. You look at the last 2 years especially. Indiana lost to Arizona last year in Vegas, lost to UConn this year in Madison Square Garden, and then Auburn on another big stage in Atlanta. This team is 12-34, either away or on a neutral site outside of the state of Indiana versus top 100 KenPom teams in the last 5 seasons.
Wow.
It's not good.
This has always been an Indiana team. I apologize for going on a little bit of a rant, guys.
No,
This is an Indiana team that has always struggled on the road. I can't remember a team. I'd say 2016, they were a solid team on the road, especially 2013. I mean, that team was just special. But, I mean, outside those couple teams, this has always been an Indiana team that's just struggled on the road. And they always... There's something about Assembly Hall. I mean, I feel like everybody knows that. Every opposing team that comes into Assembly Hall knows how difficult it is to win in Bloomington because of the atmosphere that Indiana fans bring. Guys, take away all the negatives, that especially I just brought up. What is there to like, not just about the start that Indiana has, but especially the Auburn game? What has been there to like about this Indiana team so far this season?
I'm looking specifically at the Auburn game,
Yes.
and I would say Gabe Cupps. I think he finally opened up offensively.
Double figures.
He had 11 points. He had 2 3-pointers, which is huge.
Yes.
And Indiana did break the single game record with 6 3-pointers
For the
season. Sorry, for the season. But 6 for 17, which is still not where I think Mike Woodson would want it.
It's better than it has been.
It's better than it has been. But back to Gabe Cupps. I think 4 for 6 on field goals. He also had 5 rebounds and 2 steals. I think he finally opened up and played that role that Indiana needed, especially with Xavier Johnson out.
Well, Audrey, I couldn't agree with you more. I was actually going to say the same thing.
Hey, go for it.
I really liked what I'm not going to say too much, but yeah, I really liked what I saw from Cupps. Again, he's a freshman. That was his 3rd game starting or something like that. This time on one of the biggest stages, and yeah, he really showed confidence in that game, and that was awesome to see. Beyond Cupps, yeah, I like the 3-point shooting that Audrey just mentioned, but I want to specify on CJ Gunn. He has shot 3 for 5 over the last 2 games from beyond the arc, and that's definitely a promising sign to look at from the outside. Before that, he was 2 for 28 from beyond the arc, and that is, in Indiana is going to need better shooting than that. And 3 for 5 over the last 2 games is definitely something to be happy about.
Yeah, I'll go back to that point that you made, Audrey. I mean, they made 6 3-pointers. That's better than they've done all season long. It's a step in the right direction. And I mean, you go to the start of the first half. I wasn't fully paying attention to the game. I was directing a high school basketball game back home, so I was trying to multitask while I was watching the Indiana game at the same time. But that first half, Indiana was knocking down their shots from deep. I believe they hit 3 there to start off in the first 5 minutes of the game, but at least before the under 16 timeout. Mackenzie Mbako hit 2. I believe Kel'el Ware hit 1. I mean, this was an Indiana team that looked like they were about to shoot the lights out in Atlanta, and I was blown away at the start. And again, they got up by 12 points at one point, led 22-10, and just lost it.
Their first 4 makes were all threes. First 3 shots all went in.
That's incredible.
They were up 12-6. And those were all 3 points.
All threes.
All threes.
Yeah. And I will say Auburn too. They were only hitting threes as well. I think it got to 12. It was just 3.
I mean, both of these teams, especially early on in the game, they were knocking down their shots. I mean, man, you look at Auburn. This is an Indiana team that you would like. This is a team that you would like Indiana to play like. Auburn hit 14 threes while attempting 29 on the afternoon against Indiana and Atlanta. I mean, that's just otherworldly, hitting 14 threes as a team. Mm-hmm. But again, you look at Indiana, you look at the positives, and you take away all those negatives. They hit a season high in threes. Thank the Lord. They were up by 12 to a very good Auburn team. I'm not going to take anything away from the Tigers. This is a very good team and a team that will more than likely make the tournament and probably make some noise in the tournament.
I'd
exactly.
Say they make it far.
I mean, you have great guard play, and you have guys that are able to knock in the three-point ball. That's always a recipe for success in March Madness. And
they're
guys,
almost like
please.
2 completely opposite teams.
Oh, yeah.
They have really good guard play, but then Indiana focuses on their production in the paint with Kel'el Ware and Malik Renew. All of them. They're big men.
I saw a tweet that said Indiana plays like it's 1987, which I don't know if I agree with, because the Hoosiers won a national championship in 1987. This is not a team that is playing like a national championship team. But I do understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
The style of play, they play like it would be in the 80s, which, again, the game's moving away from that, and it's becoming more of a three-point game, which, again, you got to give props to what Mike Woodson has done. He's recruited shooters. It's just Indiana. I mean, whenever you have success down low in Kel'el Ware and Malik Renew, I mean, why go away from that? Because they're such good players. I will also say this is a team that also managed to score 76 points. They gave up 104, but you still scored 76 points, which is around where they have scored so far this year. I mean, that in itself is a win. Thomas, you have something.
Yeah, I want to go back to your point right before that. Yeah, the three-point shooting. And if it's not falling, Woodson said a couple weeks ago, maybe they're the team to make the tournament without three-point shooting. And that would be historic.
It
would be historic. It
would be once in a lifetime.
It's a little bit hard to imagine that would be the case. Yeah. But my point is, Woodson said, like, if they're not falling, they're going to figure it out other ways, and they're not going to give up.
They're still 7-2 on the year, guys. So again, you look at this year again. You look at the games they've won. Yeah, they haven't been pretty wins, but it's like I said in the last podcast. At least they're winning basketball games right now. You look away from the Auburn game. You wipe that from your memory as an Indiana player and as an Indiana fan, and you move on to the next game and you prepare for Kansas. Before we look into this incredible game that we have this weekend up here in Bloomington, Indiana, against the Kansas Jayhawks, guys, Christmas is around the corner. We're only a couple weeks away. You guys knew from, I believe it was the podcast that we had Zion on. Christmas is my favorite holiday. I wore the Santa hat in here. I didn't bring it this time around. I do have it still at my apartment, and I wear it all the time. But it's around the corner, guys. I want to ask you just a little bit of a break here in between our Auburn talk and our Kansas talk. What is your all's favorite Christmas or holiday movie of all time? There's so many to choose from. There's so many.
Looking back from when I was, like, a kid, I would say I would have to go with the classic of Rudolph, the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That's just so...
My mind didn't go there, but I like that answer.
It's so good.
Yeah.
But right now, I think I'd have to say Elf.
Yeah.
You can never go wrong with Elf. I love Elf.
I feel like Elf is such the...
It's the go-to answer.
It is
That's
the
where
go-to
my
answer.
brain went to
I
immediately.
mean, not to take anything away from Elf. I love Will
Fantastic.
Ferrell, and it's such a good movie. Thomas, what do you have for us?
Well, like I said, my brain immediately went to Elf. Elf is a classic. I've seen it, honestly, at least a dozen times, but I almost don't want to say that answer just because my brain went there immediately.
There's
but
so many to choose
There's so
from.
many to choose from. I don't know. I might just start rattling.
So
the
many
Polar
good ones.
Express.
Yeah.
We're going back to our
Good one.
childhood.
Gosh, you go back. I don't know if you. Maybe it was just me in my younger days, but elementary school, you were getting around to Christmas time, and you got to play.
That's the movie that played
the
in
Polar
classrooms.
Express
Yeah.
in the classroom.
Hot chocolate,
yeah,
marshmallows,
drinking the
and
hot
everything, yeah.
chocolate. Oh,
Candy canes. Yeah, I might just stick with that answer.
Take me
Honestly,
back.
bring
Yeah.
back all those memories, and I don't know. But I also really liked your answer with
Yes.
Rudolph and
so
those classic movies. I mean, like
Santa
honestly,
Claus is coming to town.
Santa Claus coming down, Little
Yeah.
Drummer Boy, Frosty the Snowman.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my-
I mean, at this point, we're talking
Come
about
on.
like
You're
7.
bringing so many memories back
those are
right
great
now.
memories. Yeah.
They always make me just that brings me to Christmas.
Yes.
Those
Yeah.
movies bring me to Christmas
Yes.
automatically.
You know what really brings me to Christmas is the Charlie Brown Christmas special.
Oh,
Whenever
that's a good one.
you turn on the TV and Charlie Brown's playing. I don't know. I feel like because the Charlie Brown specials, the holiday specials, they got the Christmas one, they got the Thanksgiving one, and they have the Halloween one.
The Great Pumpkin.
I don't know which one out of those three is my favorite.
The Great Pumpkin.
I'm leaning towards that. I gotta say it's probably the Great Pumpkin.
Is that
That's their Halloween.
the one with Snoopy and his backstory and
That's
the Red
Thanksgiving.
Baron?
That's
the
Thanksgiving.
best
I
part.
love that
That
one.
was the
Or
craziest
is
like
it?
origin story.
Or is it? Or
I
is
don't
that
know.
Halloween?
It's been
it's
been a decade since I've
I
caught
have
up on my
not
Charlie
watched
Brown
Charlie Brown in
knowledge. But
so long.
I can't. I'll get to my answer. I got my favorite Christmas movie. It's between two. It's either Christmas Vacation.
that's a great-
love
great
Christmas
movie.
Vacation. Mine aren't. I mean, they're obviously Christmas movies, but I don't know. They're just ones that resonate to me a little bit more. Either Christmas Vacation or Home Alone. Either.
that might be the
Either
winner.
of
Yeah,
Home Alone.
that's the
That's
winner.
so good.
I don't know
So
how that
good.
didn't come to my head, but
I
if it
love
did, I'm
Home
going
Alone.
with
Yeah.
it.
I will die laughing to Home Alone any time of the day.
Home
Yeah.
Alone's so good.
It's
So
so
well
good.
done.
Oh, I just find myself just absolutely laughing to it all the time.
So I don't know if you guys saw this movie, but is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
No.
no.
No, I very much disagree.
Have
I
you guys
was
heard
even-
that at least? Like, you know where I'm coming
Yeah,
from?
no. I was literally. I'm pretty sure it's still in my tabs here on my computer. Yeah, 50 best Christmas movies. I was just looking because I had to remind myself, and that's whenever I saw Home Alone. I was like, of course. But I saw Die Hard on there, and I'm like, it's not a Christmas movie. I very much disagree.
I agree with you. I don't think so.
I will say, guys, y'all have any holiday plans going back home for Christmas time?
Yeah, I'm going home. That's really it. I'm home for Christmas.
What's
with
Wisconsin
family.
like this time of year? Cold?
gotta be freezing, yeah,
Freezing.
it's-
Actually, but no.
I'd
right
say
now,
with you too, Thomas.
Not nearly as
No,
much, though. It's
yeah.
cold, but not nearly as
Yeah.
much.
I can't. I don't know which area would be colder.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin?
No doubt.
So yeah,
That's
it's
fair.
very cold. But
I haven't been to Wisconsin
right
this
now,
time of year.
it's really not. Like even here, it's not that cold.
Yeah.
It's like kind of 40s
cold in the morning.
Wisconsin. It's cold in the morning.
It's like
but
20,
I think
it was
it's
25
like 40s.
degrees. Yeah.
I think it's
Wow.
40s right now in Wisconsin. So.
Has Wisconsin seen its first snowfall? I
It
can only
has.
imagine.
It has. My parents sent me 10,000 pictures.
That
so
is
I
amazing.
knew that there was snow.
How much snowfall do you all actually get?
It depends.
It depends, but Wisconsin can get a lot, especially in the northern parts. Like a lot of snow.
So,
Lots of snow.
so you all have seen like feet of snow?
Yeah.
Oh
for
yeah,
Sure.
That's-
yeah.
for
When I lived in
sure.
Connecticut, and I would
Okay.
literally
Oh,
be like
wow.
up to the hips.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's wild.
it was really fun.
Yeah, Jersey will get snow flurries, and it'll depend how much snow we get yearly, but it could be a couple inches or it can be like a foot.
That's
My plans for the holidays, I will be going home to New Jersey
Yes,
after
sir.
a 12-hour solo drive on Sunday after
good
Kansas.
luck.
Think you all need it. But yeah,
Take a couple energy drinks.
Yeah.
definitely will. I got a couple Red Bulls already loaded. But yeah, I said it last time. Christmas is my favorite time of the year. I just celebrated my birthday, which was a lot of fun. For the holidays, I will be honestly just looking forward to spending time with my family, my extended family, especially on Christmas. We all get together, go to my aunt's, and have wonderful food, very similar to Thanksgiving. I'm going to have to go get my yearly picture with Santa Claus for my mother.
That's amazing. I love that you also do that.
Yeah, truth be told, I used to hate it, but at this point, I'm an adult.
It's just a tradition.
It's all my mom wants for Christmas every single year. So me and my siblings,
Make
even
mom
though we're
happy.
adults, we'll go take a picture with Santa on his lap, and yeah, we have a whole collection of
I
those now.
love
So
that.
yeah,
That
it is cool to look back on.
That's hilarious. I will say, I'm probably I'm 21 years old now, and I'm still gonna do it until the day that I die, especially whenever I have kids of my own. I will always wake up so early on Christmas Day just so I can wake up my entire family. I'm like, all right, let's get going. We've got a schedule.
Christmas.
It's Christmas time. What is the appropriate time to wake up on Christmas morning? Or do you all do it like Christmas Eve?
Yeah,
Okay.
my
That's
family
what
does
we're
it
doing
Christmas
this year.
Eve. My
It's the
family
first time
usually
we've
does
done
Presents
it.
and everything Christmas Eve?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I love it that way, honestly, because Christmas you really just spend the time with your family.
Exactly.
And you can just sit in, watch movies, and eat food, and not have to wake up early.
Yeah, this is the first time my family's ever doing it on Christmas Eve because my older sister just got married, and so her and her husband, my brother-in-law, are coming over to the house on Christmas Eve, and we're opening up presents then. So what's the appropriate time, guys? Because I feel like I'm going to be way earlier than you guys.
I have, first of all, I have to say, like, I used to be the same exact way. Like, everybody get up.
Hey, it's
it is
good.
Christmas.
We got a schedule.
Probably since sophomore, junior of high school, as like the presents will get opened, I am getting my sleep. But if we're not up by 10 o'clock, my sister is banging on the door.
Yeah.
Everybody
Oh,
get
man.
up and she'll fill your role. So 10 o'clock the latest, I will say, for Christmas morning.
I've done the tradition every year of doing it at night, of doing presents at night, but still,
Okay.
I'd say like 8:39 on Christmas. 8:30 or what are you like 5?
Nah.
What are you saying, like 5 a.m.?
So
No way.
So I've always woken up my older sister first, just because it's almost a running joke at this point that I'm like, hey, I'm going to wake you up at 2 a.m. this morning.
Oh my God. We were kidding about 5.
No. That's not what I'm actually doing. It is pretty early, but it's always just like a running joke that I'm going to wake her up super early in the morning, and like this year, Christmas morning, she's not going to be at the house, so I can't wake her up on Christmas Eve because she's not staying at the house. So I don't really know what I'm going to do with myself.
Are you
this
going to
year.
drive?
Spam
You're just going to go to her house? and
Wow, you just
slam on the
gave me an idea. Mackenzie, I am coming to the house. I'm waking up you guys and the dogs.
Lock your doors, Mackenzie.
Lock your doors.
But no, I think last year I told her I was going to wake her up at like, it wasn't last year, actually. It was a couple years ago. I told her I was going to wake her up like 4 a.m. in the morning.
God.
And
so
I
crazy.
stood, I was truthful to it, and I literally went into her room, and I got pat her, and I was like, it's 4 a.m. It's time to wake up. And she was like, I'm gonna kill you. Give it another hour. And so I didn't even go back to bed. I literally sat outside her door and just I just waited for an hour, and then I went back. I went back in, and I was like, hey. It's been an hour. It's time to wake up.
But my question
She
is,
was ready to kill me.
are you guys opening presents at 5 a.m. like you and your sister? Are you guys getting up your family at 5 a.m.? Or what are you guys doing at 5 a.m.?
So once she wakes up, everybody's going to wake up because like I wake her up and then it's time. All right, let's go around. I'm going to wake up my little sister and then I'm going to go wake up my parents. And that's always it's like whenever we were kids, we were the ones that slept in super late. Well, I never woke up really. Actually, I think I've always waken up early. But my parents were normally the ones like, hey, wake up. It's time to go open our presents. So I don't know. It feels like now that I'm getting older, obviously they want to sleep in. And I want to sleep in too, but I don't know. It's like a tradition at this point. It's an unofficial tradition.
My question for you is now it's 6:15 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
All the presents are open, and you guys, what do you guys do from there?
We'll just sit around. We'll turn on the TV. My dad starts making breakfast, and we'll all just like be opening our presents there for a while, and we'll all just kind of mess around there for a little bit, and we just kind of relax. Nobody goes back to sleep. We all stay awake, and we just wait. And after that, around noon, we'll go over to my aunt's, and that's where we'll have.
It genuinely sounds like you get an extended Christmas every year because of those extra hours.
Exactly.
So honestly, I like it.
Exactly.
I like it.
Okay, we've gone way too far on this Christmas talk. So guys, let's get back on track. I apologize. I do this every single time. This is why I'm a terrible host at my job.
What?
All right.
I don't think anyone said
We
that.
love you, Hayden.
Final segment of this podcast, guys. It's the stripe out game. Indiana versus Kansas. Unranked Hoosiers versus second-ranked Jayhawks, guys. It's arguably the biggest game of the season. You could argue the UConn game, but this one's at home in Bloomington against the second-ranked Jayhawks, guys. What are you looking for from Indiana in this one?
I think it really does depend on the status of Xavier Johnson.
I agree.
And I personally, I don't know anything. So I literally do not know anything, but I personally think that he plays. And this is his game that he probably looks back on for so long, because this is the game where he broke his foot, and this is the game where he was out for the rest of the season last season. And if he plays, I think he will have a massive game, and Indiana will feed off of that. The rest of the team will feed off of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I actually wanted to go to that point a couple segments ago, and I completely forgot. But
well, we're doing it now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no. Listen, even if Xavier Johnson isn't 100% fully healthy, you have to imagine he will do whatever it takes to get out there. He wants to be out there. If he were to play one game this entire season, it would be against Kansas. And beyond that, he was a little banged up heading into New York at Madison Square Garden, and even then he said, I was not going to miss this game. And you have to imagine it's going to be a similar case against the Jayhawks.
Yeah, I think, obviously having Xavier Johnson back, we mentioned it earlier, it'd be huge for Indiana, not just for the Kansas game, but moving forward. You got to think maybe it's a situation, I mentioned this a couple podcasts ago, like Trace Jackson-Davis last year. He hurt his hand early on in the season against Xavier, and then he really wasn't in and out, actually. He played for a couple more games, and then he decided he was going to sit out the last 3 non-conference games of the season. And I think that's maybe what Xavier Johnson is going to try and do. Maybe he's going to try and play against Kansas. Again, we're all just speculating right here. We have no idea what the status of Xavier Johnson is. But if you do have Xavier Johnson play this game against Kansas, maybe he plays it, not 100% healthy, and then sits out these last 3 non-conference games to end. Is it 3? It is 3. North Alabama, Kennesaw State, and Morehead State. Yes, that was the one I was forgetting. So you've got those 3, and I think he'll sit out. A big thing I'm looking at is the defense for Indiana. How do they stack up against Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough and the rest of the Jayhawks? This is a very high-powered offense and a great defense, I'll say it, that by Kansas. How does this team especially respond to the atmosphere that they're going to see on Saturday? They haven't seen an atmosphere like they will see this Saturday the entire year. It's going to be the biggest crowd of the season, probably the biggest crowd since the Purdue game last year. Or
North Carolina.
Exactly. Yeah. Both of those games were sellouts, I believe. I believe it was 17,222. And I think you're going to see 17,222 again on Saturday, more than likely. And the stripe out. I looked back in an old picture. I can't remember when it was from. It was before they installed the new scoreboard, the new Jumbotron in Assembly Hall, and they had a stripe out game. And it was a long time ago. Older Indiana fans that are listening to this are probably cursing me out right now that I don't know this, but I haven't seen a stripe out game in my time as an Indiana student, so I'm very excited to see this, guys. Really quick, we're going to look at the Jayhawks. I'm not sure how much you guys have dove into Kansas this year. I've watched a couple games already. It's a team that's 9-1. Like I said, second in the AP poll. Their only loss is to Marquette this year. That was in Maui. A very, very good Marquette team that I believe should be ranked higher than they are right now. Shaka Smart is doing a phenomenal job with Marquette. They defeated UConn 2 weeks ago at Kansas. A huge game for them moving forward. And, of course, they have Michigan transfer Hunter Dickinson and Indiana favorites among opponents. I'm being very sarcastic right now. And he's averaging 19 points per game, 13 rebounds. We talked about it earlier. He's up for National Player of the Year. Might be winning it at the moment, probably right behind Zach Edey. Guys, the Jayhawks are really good this year. Mm-hmm. So what would a win moving forward mean for Indiana? Well, if they're able to do so, of course. We're all speculating.
I mean, I don't even know if there's the right words for what a win over number 2 Kansas at home would mean for this Indiana team. They're coming off a 30-point loss against Auburn on the national stage. They would love nothing more than a statement win at home against Kansas.
This is still technically the national stage. It's a game that's on CBS.
100%.
Yep.
Indiana's going to be very well represented.
Yeah. A win for this team, I mean, yeah, it would mean everything. To keep it plain and simple, it would mean everything for this Indiana team.
Yeah. I think to go into their final 3 non-conference games with a win over the number 2 team in the nation at Assembly Hall in front of people that are slowly getting a little frustrated with your play. And if they are able to get a win over the number 2 team in the nation, around 17,222 people, that the fan base would be on top of the world. Going into the non-conference games with all of the confidence that you need, and going into Big Ten play with just as much confidence, and 2-0 in the conference as well. I think this win, if they can pull it off, will be absolutely massive.
Yeah, it'd be a massive momentum builder for not just this season, but seasons moving forward. I mean, Indiana has gotten wins over top teams here in the last few years, but, I mean, 3 times it's been against Purdue, and 2 of those have been at home. The last big non-conference win that they got at home, wow, I'd have to go far back. I can't really classify North Carolina because that was a team that was really starting to lose a lot of momentum at the time that they played Indiana here last year. I can't even begin to guess. But it'd be a huge momentum builder moving forward for Indiana, especially, like you said, Audrey, going into the last couple non-conference games of the season. 3 games that Indiana is expected to win and win handedly against 3 teams that are outside of the top 150 in KenPom. Morehead State is the only team. They're 151st. North Alabama, 222. Kennesaw State, 220. So 2 teams that Indiana should be able to beat. It'd be massive. You'd see couches burning in the streets of Kirkwood. You would see, obviously, a court rush by Indiana students, the 3rd one in 3 years for Indiana. I mean, it'd be incredible. Now, let's go on the flip side of things before we really start talking about our players to watch and our score prediction. What would a loss mean for Indiana?
I think it would kind of be the opposite of what I said. I think the fan base would start to get very, very frustrated, and the confidence would probably diminish, honestly. I think, at least if they're able to keep it close, I think that would be a lot better. But if this turns out to be another Auburn game, I don't think it would be good. It just wouldn't turn out the way that they would want. But yeah, I think this game is crucial for how the rest of the season goes, in my opinion. And the way that they play, the way that they show up, and the way that they go into these final non-conference games of the season, I think will tell a lot.
Yeah, Audrey, you said it. I agree. For me, it's a little bit more tricky. It depends. Like Audrey kind of just said, if they get blown out again, back to back, double digit, or not even double digit, but Auburn was a 30-point loss. However big of a loss this is, that's really not something that this team can afford right now.
Yeah.
If they play a phenomenal game and it comes down to the wire and Kansas pulls ahead and gets it done, there could be a lot to be proud of this
Yeah.
Indiana team, and they could be, honestly somewhat happy looking forward. But it really just depends. It really depends. It depends how not only the outcome and the final score of the game, but how the actual game goes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
I mean, this is a Kansas team that's obviously expected to beat Indiana and beat them handedly. The line has not come out for Vegas just yet, but I can only imagine it's got to be Kansas, maybe by double digits. Granted, you also have to take into account how good Indiana is at home and how historically how good they are at home in Assembly Hall. But I mean, a loss. Yes, the fan base would be upset, and especially like you all said, if it's another blowout loss, it really start angering the Indiana fan base, and they become a little restless. But again, you'd also look at their 3 losses. If they do, at that point, all 3 of them are against top 15 KenPom teams with UConn, Auburn, and Kansas. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Speaking about waiting and seeing, guys, I can only imagine that students are getting ready to line up here soon enough. What's the earliest that students start lining up at? Because I know the answer. I've done this before.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I've done this.
I think
3
especially
years.
for this game, it'll be tonight.
Tonight.
I'd say tonight is possible.
You're getting
but
it
the
10.
other thing you have to think about is that they're not distributing tickets the same way. So
That is weird.
the
I get
students
it, though.
don't have as much, like they don't have the student section if I'm not mistaken.
They
They do have a student section, but not the same one, right?
I can't. I saw
I
something.
think that they're
I think
'Cause-
I could be completely off base here, but I think both end zone
end zones.
bleachers are going to be student section.
I think so.
Which would be nice, but again, one where are you going to put the band?
yeah.
And 2, that's just not a big student section whatsoever. I don't know what they're
Exactly.
doing. I saw something a couple days ago. I have no idea.
Yeah. I think it's because now December 16th marks literally the day after that everybody goes home.
They have no idea how
So
many people are going to be there.
Those become those tickets where they don't have a student section for that, except for probably the back end zone, behind the basket. Sorry.
I found it.
Go ahead.
No, keep going because
Well,
I'm still
no,
looking.
because I want to know.
I'm still looking.
But yeah, so I think. You ready?
Okay, a special student section, I'm going to just read this off
Yeah.
straight up. A special student section is reserved for the Kansas game. The student section will encompass court-level south bleacher seats only. Sections 1, 2, and 10. South, okay. The rest of the normal student section was part of the mini-series package for the games when the students are on break.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what. The
Wow.
mini series package. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. So it's not.
Yikes.
It's not going to be as many people, as many students.
That's going to hurt.
It's gonna. Yeah. So I
As
mean, I
good
think it'll
as-
still be
yeah.
sold out. It will still be sold out,
Wow.
but
I don't like that.
not with as many students.
I don't like that because, I mean, you still look around Bloomington right now. There's still a good amount of students
People
here.
are staying for this game no matter what.
Yeah.
That baffles me that is what they're going to do, and especially only the south bleacher seats only. That's not a lot of seats.
Yeah.
Because that's just the ones. Yeah. That's just those ones that are, if you're looking from section K, it's the ones that are off to the left, I believe. Yes. That's not a lot of seats.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, granted,
That
I
baffles
think
me.
that's what they're giving away to students, but that doesn't say that students aren't going to buy tickets. I
Yeah.
think this is the biggest game of the year.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that I do think at least 50% of the crowd will be students.
That hurts.
That will. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to answering the original question.
Yeah, we go way off base here
No, that was
on
great.
the
That was
Throwing
all
Chairs
very,
podcast.
very good. I'm sure very interesting information for our listeners. It was for me, certainly.
Debate.
But yeah, I've been thinking about the question. We got
do you
12:30
got?
tip-off. I didn't think about people lining up tonight, but I mean,
It very well could happen.
that very
It could happen.
very well could happen.
I haven't seen anybody out there just yet. Not yet.
Wait,
Not yet.
What's today? Is today Thursday?
Today is Thursday.
You think people are lining up tonight?
All day tomorrow.
So
They're
here's
probably
the
going to
thing.
let them in like at 10 or 10:30 on Saturday.
We mentioned this
So
on
they'll
the
line up
pod.
tonight
Yeah.
and be in the line all day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes. So we mentioned this a couple weeks ago on the podcast about Kansas students staying in Allen Fieldhouse for the UConn game. They were there. I
Yeah,
believe they were
days.
there 2 days
Yeah,
before.
you're right.
And they literally got to spend the night
yeah.
in Allen Fieldhouse. I mean,
Wow.
that would just be unbelievable. That'd be so cool. But again, with there not being a full student section, they're obviously not going to do that.
If they are out there, I
So-
need to go get a camera and start my package.
But now that we mentioned that there's not going to be a full student section, I don't think.
Wait, I will say.
No, please,
When I was
please.
doing tailgate talks for a football game, I started somehow the topic of North Carolina last season came into talk.
Let's see if this person beat me.
So this person,
They did not beat
No,
me.
they were the people. They might have been lying to me. I don't know. But they said that they were the people that camped outside of Briscoe. You remember how there
Yeah.
was they were those people that camped outside of Briscoe in the pouring rain.
Okay.
And tonight they plan, or
Wow.
for Kansas, they plan on camping out probably even earlier.
Insider
bringing grills
information.
And like bringing grills and just bringing everything
Breaking news on the Throwing Chairs podcast.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
Students, line up.
Yeah. They're going to line up as early as they can. But again, I do think that the fact that they don't have a lot of seats
Yeah.
brings a lot into factor.
Yeah.
Maybe they do open up the top sections, though. I could see it. I don't know.
Who knows? We're going to see. I will say, I mean, you look at the Purdue game a couple years ago, and I think the North Carolina game too. Indiana has one of the biggest student sections in the country because they fill up that entire section, and then they can even go to the top of the other sections on the east side of Assembly Hall. I can't believe I just had to go northeast, southwest. They had to do it on the east side, and they continue to wrap around the top, and then they even go all the way to the top in the nosebleed sections of Assembly Hall. I mean, Indiana has one of the biggest student sections in the country. Again, the Indiana faithful are going to show out. I just hate that students aren't really getting that kind of opportunity when I know there's going to be plenty of students at the Kansas game. So who knows whenever people are going to start lining up. But talking one more time about this Kansas game as we continue to get off topic. Guys, player or players to watch for the game against Kansas, whichever one of you are ready to go.
I mean, I think everyone's going to say Xavier Johnson if he does play.
Okay.
But if he doesn't play, we'll do the same thing if X plays, if X doesn't play.
Okay.
If Xavier Johnson plays, Xavier Johnson. If he doesn't play, I
apologize.
I'm gonna go.
Game notes.
That's gonna be. I'm gonna go Kel'el Ware. I
Okay.
think the matchup between him and Hunter Dickinson
Yes.
will be something very, very big to literally something very big to watch.
It'd
No
be
pun
very big.
intended.
Thomas.
I was just praying you didn't say my player, so I didn't keep repeating you, but I'm glad you didn't. Yes, I agree. If X plays 100%, he's the player to watch, without a doubt. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yep.
If he does not, my player to watch is based off the player who had a great game last game, like we said. I'm going to go with Gabe Cupps. He'll
Okay.
be starting in place of X once again. And he's coming off a great game. This will be an even bigger game than last time where he put up that performance. And this time he'll have at home, have the crowd behind him. And I'm excited to see what he's got for us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you guys said, Xavier Johnson, if he plays, he's going to be a tremendous part to this Indiana team. I'm going to piggyback off of what you said, Audrey, and say Kel'el Ware, because that matchup against Hunter Dickinson is going to be, like you said, huge. How does he fare against a player like Dickinson? He did pretty well earlier this year against UConn, against Donovan Clingan. I thought he actually played very well outside of he didn't perform really well inside the paint as opposed as he did outside. So he's going to have to just be able to look at that matchup and say, I'm going to attack Dickinson as much as I possibly can because I'm going to show that I'm the better player and that I'm the more versatile player. Both Ware and Dickinson, I feel like they play very similarly, their style of play. Dickinson can step out and shoot, so can Kel'el Ware. Both of them can stretch the floor, and they can also dominate the paint whenever they want. I think the point where Ware is a little bit better than Dickinson is his post play, not just like backing down the post and going up with the right hand or the left hand. It's his ability to turn around and take a tough, contested fadeaway shot, and he's proven that he can hit that very consistently. So I think Kel'el Ware could be a huge piece for Indiana if they look to win. Guys, final segment for this podcast. Score prediction. I will allow 2 if you have them.
With and without X?
You can go that. I have 2.
Hayden's turning his computer from
I am. I'm just
Very slowly, too.
I did not mean to move it that slowly. I wasn't trying to be like, don't look at my score. It was
totally were.
It was so subconscious that I just slowly turned it away.
That's actually really funny.
That was so subconscious of me. Either one of you want to go first because I went first last time. Actually, I'm going to pick.
I'm not ready.
I don't think I've been first.
I haven't gotten to Thomas in a while. Thomas, let's go to you.
All right, I will do 2, and I will do a with and without X. I'll do a with X.
Okay.
In both my scores, I'm gonna have Kansas. I'm usually very, very hopeful in IU. In fact, I don't know if I've voted against them yet. Even
No,
UConn.
this is the first time.
That was my hot take. Was I was taking down UConn. That obviously didn't happen, but. Yeah, I'm going to go with Kansas in both these scenarios.
Okay.
The scenario with Xavier Johnson, I'm going to say IU covers 10. I mean, I hope.
Okay.
I'll do 82-72.
Okay. That's
Kansas.
fair. That is fair.
And then without X, I think this can definitely run away, if especially if last game was any indication. And I'll do a 20-point loss, hoping IU can prove me wrong. I'm going to do 82-72, and then without X, I'll just do 82-62.
All right. I literally just came up with these. So
You got
I
it.
think
You got it.
I'll take care of it.
With X, I think this is a game that goes down to the wire. And it's a game that will be remembered in Assembly Hall for a very long time. I'm going to go 73-72 Indiana with X.
The mic did pick up that.
Okay. Without X, I do think it'll still be kept within 10 because I think that the environment in Assembly Hall is going to be massive for Indiana. And but without X, I'm going to pick Kansas here. And I'm going to go 70-60 Kansas. I don't know. I'm very interested to see how this plays out and how. Okay, I'm really not.
I'm just waiting for Hayden's prediction because I'm just staring at his reactions.
They're making like the most like facial reactions while I'm making these picks.
Okay.
I lost my train of thought now. Go ahead, Hayden, because you clearly have a lot to say.
I don't know. This is such an Indiana team that's so two-faced.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get out of them. Indiana could go out and beat Kansas by 10 points. Or they could go out there and lose to Kansas by 35. Mm-hmm. This is a team, I have no idea what they're going to get out of this game. Oh, man, I'm very back and forth on my pick right now. Oh, man. I have it ready, and I'm looking at it right in front of me, and I'm trying to go away from it.
You got to go with it. You have to go with it. You picked it.
I haven't said it yet, though.
But you already wrote it down.
I haven't said it yet, though. So
you wrote it down.
It's not set in stone yet.
But it's set in stone on your computer.
You're debating going with your heart or your brain.
I can very well just delete this right now.
Well, you have it on the record now that you're deleting your original pick.
Okay. Indiana, with Xavier Johnson, 73-67 Indiana.
Wow.
Okay, so what was with the
that's-
reaction?
that's super
What was
similar
with the
to
reaction?
Audrey's.
I would love to know the reaction.
I have-
What I was thinking.
I have
It's
to
actually
really
5 points off of Audrey's.
think. I gotta think about this now because we're tied again. We're all tied in our predictions now after you guys both picked Auburn to win in the last game, and you guys picked Indiana. I picked
Indiana.
Auburn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
With Xavier Johnson, 73-67. Without Xavier Johnson, Indiana loses 81-65.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still wondering the reactions.
Yeah, I gotta agree. You
I'm
didn't seem too
confused.
pleased with
I'm
Audrey's picks.
confused.
I was back and forth for such a long time about whether or not I wanted to go with my original picks because I still don't like them. Technically, one of
think
them.
they're good picks.
Technically, one of them is not my original pick, but nobody has to know. So, without further ado, that is going to do it for this episode of the Throwing Chairs podcast. Be sure to follow the Hoosier Network on all of our social media platforms to stay up to date on Indiana basketball. Until next time, alongside Audrey Marr. Audrey, there we go.
What?
Audrey Marr, Thomas Montalbano, I'm Hayden Smith, hanging up the phone. Have a very great day and a Merry Christmas, Hoosier fans.